You're watching Let's Chat.
Good morning. We're glad to have you back as we continue on Let's Chat on this beautiful Monday morning. Coming up, I believe it's tomorrow, you'll have a chance to get involved in something going on down at Songbirds. The incredible work they're doing through the Songbirds Foundation is just not to be ignored. Reed Caldwell here. He is the executive director of the Guitar and Pop Culture Center. Reed, first of all, good to see you again.
Good to be here.
You got a huge thing coming up, the Songbirds Radio Hour. Before we get into who's going to be taking part in this next, tell me exactly what the Songbirds Radio Hour is.
So I've always wanted to do a radio program. I grew up in Mississippi listening to like public radio, and I just always liked Stacker Mountain Radio and stuff like that. I just thought it was really cool, and I think our staff all was really into it. And we just want to do an hour-long live recorded radio program where we just get to interview people, hear good bands, talk about things, and I feel like we've been talking about it for 5 years or so, and it finally came to fruition now.
Now, you're underway with just the first Songbirds Radio Hour, correct?
This will be the second one.
That's right.
One, yeah. We had one in October.
The one you're doing now is going to highlight the punk rock music scene, which of course basically got its roots founded in New York City. And you got some heavy hitters that are going to be taking part in this. Tell me all about the band Television, who was very instrumental in putting on punk rock. And your guest that you're going to have for this is pretty much a heavy hitter.
Yeah, Richard Lloyd from Television. Yeah, he's the guy.
Yeah, I mean, you think of several of the big names in punk rock music. You think Iggy Pop. Richard Lloyd's got to be up there at number 2 or 3.
Yeah, well, so Television's a proto-punk band. They're kind of like the earliest iteration of what would become punk. They were kind of in there with like Blondie, Talking Heads, the Stooges. Yeah. And they really kind of set the arc, the mold. They created the mold of what punk would become. And they were, they were the Kings of New York. Or CBGBs. They were the house band for a couple of years. And
yeah, they played with the Ramones, Blondie, Patti Smythe. There's a whole bunch of folks these guys have played with. Tell me exactly what Richard is going to be talking about here on the Songbirds Radio Hour.
So he's just going to be talking about how Television got its start. How it's interesting to talk to them because I feel like they don't consider themselves a punk band. They consider themselves, they have a lot of kind of improv jazz influences, and they also have influences of, things like the Velvet Underground and stuff like that. They've kind of combined this thing to make this new sound, but I think he doesn't really look at himself as like a punk guitar. So it's really cool to talk to him about what his guitar sound is and things like that. He'll also be playing with our house band as well, playing a couple of 4 or 5 Television tunes.
Some people say the initial birth of punk rock goes back to Louie Louie by the Kingsmen. In your mind, what was the original song or the original band that absolutely kicked off, without doubt, punk rock?
Without a doubt. I don't know about that, but I can tell you that some of the bands that were really there, I think the Kinks, were really kind of instrumental starting the thing. I think you could go back, you could say MC5. You could go back to like Link Ray, who's like, that song Rumble, dong, dong, dong. That song I feel like is kind of like really led the way to kind of that heavier, they were kind of some of that stuff, but yeah.
A little grittier.
Yeah, just had that edge on things. MC5 had that the rebellious streak, and I think a lot of these bands just really kind of came together at different times and really kind of set the stage for punk to kind of become this outlet of rebellion and
Sure. Yeah. And one that has been widely received ever since its inception decades ago. So if folks want to get involved in the Songbirds Radio Hour, how do they do so?
So there's 2 ways. Basically, you can come to a taping. So tomorrow night, Tuesday night, at Songbirds at 7 o'clock, we'll be doing a live taping, which will be, it's a free event. As long as there's tickets available, you can come, it's free. And then of course, after we tape, we usually air on WUTC the first Saturday of every month at 7 o'clock. So the episode we shot last month about Bessie Smith will air this Saturday at 7 on WUTC. This episode with Richard Lloyd will air November, whatever the first Saturday is, at 7.
Man, best of luck with this. The Songbirds Radio Hour sounds like a new and exciting way to reach out and take the Songbirds mission to folks who may not be able to make it down there in person. Really good to
thanks
see
for
you
having me.
All right, stick around. You want to find out more about what's happening at Songbirds, you can go to their website and you can find that out. Or you can go to our website, Their website, of course, songbirdsfoundation.org. Songbirdsfoundation.org. We're talking wine over water straight ahead when we return on Let's Chat.